Hello, this video will show you how to log in to Zoom and start a Zoom meeting, whether you want to start one impromptu or if you have one scheduled already. So if we go to fdu.zoom.us, you can sign in by clicking the sign in on the far right. Use your FDU credentials, so the ones you'd sign into your email with. And here you're brought to your landing page, and this is where you have your option of either starting a meeting that you haven't scheduled or going to a scheduled meeting and starting it. So if you have a scheduled meeting, you would just come over to the Meetings tab, find the meeting that's scheduled, and then hit Start, and it'll bring you into the meeting itself. If you don't have a meeting scheduled and you just want to start one impromptu or just on the spot, there's a Host a Meeting button here on the top far right, and you'll see if you hover over it, it asks you, do you want to start your meeting with your video off or your video on? And this will bring you directly into a meeting. So if I click on Host a Meeting with video off, you're going to get a pop-up that says Open Zoom, and you always want to say yes. If you've never used Zoom before, it may try to install a Zoom client, which if it does, say yes, you do want to install that, and hopefully your computer will allow you to do so. Once it opens, it asks you how you want to join. I want to join with computer audio since I'm using a headset. But if a person didn't have computer audio, they could click over here on phone call, and it'll give them the phone numbers with which they can actually dial in to call. But I'm going to do computer audio. And you'll see I'm in my Zoom client right now, and I'm actually hosting the meeting, so I'll have more options than someone who's just showing up as a attendee. But if I hover around my screen, you'll see at the very bottom there's a bar that has a muted microphone, a turned off video, the option to invite other attendees. I can see who's in on my chat, and I can share my screen, and there's also a chat page you can open if you don't want to talk, you just want to type in text. You'll notice that it keeps dropping away. You have to kind of move your mouse around on the screen for that to keep staying up on the screen. So I'm going to go ahead and unmute my microphone so people can hear me talking. And you'll see at the very top that it says Talking Robert Wolf. So it picks up that I'm talking and lets people know who's talking. If I had my camera on, it would show my picture every time I talked. And you can turn your camera on just simply by toggling this on and off. Now, since this is an impromptu meeting, I would have to invite other participants. But if I had used the scheduled meeting, theoretically people would just join in because they already have a link and they're going to come in and join my session. But there's two ways to invite participants if you want to do it from an impromptu meeting. You can click on this Invite tab and click on your default email, and hopefully it'll connect to your default email, and you can send email out with the link for people to join your meeting. The other option is, instead of trying to use these buttons, is to just take this copy URL or copy invitation. So if I hit copy invitation, it copied it to my clipboard. Then I have to open up my email, create a new email, move this guy out of the way, paste the invitation in here so you'll see it has the invitation to the meeting, and then send it out to whoever I want to send it out to. In this case, I'm not actually going to send anything, so I'm going to close this. I don't want to save that. I'm going to go back to Zoom. And you'll see the client has stayed on top of everything all the time. So it's always on top of your screen, on top of your windows, until you actually start sharing. And this happens a lot too. People open up something, they go somewhere else, and now they don't see their Zoom meeting. If you go down to the bottom, there's a camera inside of a blue box. That's your Zoom meeting, so you have to find that in the taskbar of your window. Sometimes people have so many of these in their bar, like these little objects here, that they don't see this here. But if you notice, there might be an up and down arrow to the right if you have a lot of icons here, and you want to scroll through those up and down arrows to find this blue bar or this blue box again. So I'm going to go ahead and click back over to Zoom. So let's pretend there's other people on this call and I want to share a screen with them or share my computer. I would just hit the share screen button here, or I could hit the share screen button here. I'm going to do through the bottom one because if people have video on, this will be a picture of video and these options won't show up. So I'm going to go down to the share screen here at the very bottom. And when I click on it, it gives me a variety of options of how to share my screen. I can share my full screen, I can share just the browser I have open, I can share any of the tabs I already have open somewhere else. And it's really a matter of choice for you. If you don't want people seeing everything on your computer, then you don't want to use screen. If you only want them to see a specific document and you have it open, let's say this was a Word document, I would click on this and have them open the Word document. If I only want them to see my web browser, I can just click on my current web browser, which is what I'm going to do here. I just want them to see my web browser and not everything that I do. So I hit share. So now, right now, we're seeing what the other people will be seeing. And you'll notice our taskbar has dropped down to the bottom, and it shrinks away once you stop hovering over it. But as soon as you hover over the green, it'll pop up again and you'll have all your options. So now if I go to the library's homepage, I can go into the library catalog or into the databases and do whatever search I want, and the person can follow along. Now once I'm done sharing and I don't want to share the screen anymore, if I hover down to the bottom, you'll see this stop sharing button pops up. Just go ahead and hit stop sharing, and we're brought back to the default screen for Zoom, and they'll see the same thing or something similar. Now sometimes you might have an issue with people having their microphones on and talking and hearing a lot of background noise, and you try to explain to them to turn off their microphone, but maybe they don't know how to do it. As a presenter, you have the option of going into this Manage Participants down here, clicking on it, and you'll notice it brought up a list of participants. In this case, it's only me. But if there were other people on here, they'd all show up here. You'd see their little microphone bouncing up and down like mine is when they're talking. You'd have their cameras on or off depending on how their cameras are set up. But you have a button down here called Mute All, so you can mute everybody and not have all that background sound coming in. And then you can unmute them, or tell them that you've muted them and allow them to unmute themselves when they talk and to mute themselves when they're done talking. That gets rid of all the people crumpling paper, coughing, getting phone calls on the side and talking, that kind of thing. So just remember that your ability to control their camera and their microphone is under this Manage Participants. Another option you have is, if you want to, you can have people have a chat group going on the side so they could chat back and forth with each other. I'm not sure how practical it is for most of us, but it is an option available to you. Now, let's say the student wants to share their screen with you. As long as you're unshared, they have the option to share. If by chance they're telling you they don't have the option to share, if you look next to your share screen button, there's an up arrow. Go ahead and click on this and go to the advanced sharing options, and make sure that you have who can share set to all participants, so that way they can actually share their screens if they want to. And then that should allow them to share. They should be able to share with you, and then you can then see what they're working on. Now to end a meeting, you'll notice if you hover over the bar again, at the very bottom there's an end meeting button. And as a host, if I end the meeting, you'll see it's telling me it'll end the meeting for everybody, or I can just leave the meeting and let other people stay behind and talk. But if I was a participant in a meeting, I can just hit leave meeting, and the meeting will go on without me. So I'm just going to hit end meeting for all, and you'll see it brings us back to the Zoom page. Let's say you had another meeting, you might be tempted to click here and sign in and do it that way. Don't do it through here. Always go through fdu.zoom.us, because that will bring you to the other Zoom client, and then we get issues with licensing and all other things. So just always go through the fdu.zoom.us link. And that concludes our video. Thank you.